Hey, John here. Here's lick of the day number 58. This is pentatonic picking lick. As usual, you can find a link to the tabs in the description below and also by clicking right here on the screen. I'm gonna play it once slowly and then break it down. We start here on the 5th fret of the low E string. Right, this one is based on the A minor pentatonic and we start in this day 1 position. And we go up 4 strings, like that. So from the 5th fret, then go up. And we're gonna keep going on this string group, meaning the D and G string. So we're just gonna move up to the next position, next position, next position. And from here, we're gonna continue on up until the root note up here. So and the only thing that I do here when it comes to the picking is just alternate picking, starting a downstroke. So down, up, down, up, down, up. And the only thing that I change here, instead of going, I use 3 fingers on the top string. So but both ways work. So that's pretty much up to you. This one can be really helpful to see how you can connect these different pentatonic positions so you don't get stuck in the box, as people say. And there's really no reason to be stuck anywhere, really, right? You just need to learn the shapes as they are and then be comfortable enough to switching between any of the shapes that are next to the one that you're in. And then when you can do that, and you worked on that systematically, you should be able to move around the fretboard quite freely, because whatever shape you're in, you can always go up to the next one and go, either the high one or the lower one. So if you're not familiar with these 5 boxes, I highly encourage you to work on that, because it's a very basic thing and a very useful thing. Actually, I would probably just call it a fundamental thing instead of basic. A basic seems to imply that it's easy and some people's egos can't take that. So think about fundamental instead. And you can't really be good enough at the fundamentals or too good at the fundamentals. So I know this is not really about learning the shapes specifically, but what I mean by this is that you, first of all, learn the shapes individually if you don't know them. And that can be a great technique exercise as well. So just take whatever shape that you don't know and then start at the lowest position, learn that, and then move it up by half steps. Because doing that will sort of take it from being within a certain amount of, the dots, and you can see the shape for what it is. And that's much easier accomplished when you move it up a half step at a time. Another tip here is to make sure that you know where the root note of the shape is. And a shameless plug here, I have a course called Nailing the Minor Pentatonic, which is all about getting these shapes together and being able to see them and hear them as well. But once you can do each individual shape, you want to take each of the 5, let's just number them 1 through 5, and then you work on going between shape, let's say we call this 1. Doesn't really matter what you call the shapes, but this shape. And then the next one. And make sure you can go between those shapes without any issues. And you can do that with a more systematic technique-based approach, but also simply improvising. So you have a limitation on improvisation where you have to be in either of these shapes. But you won't, it's not a strict thing where you have to go like, that kind of approach. But both approaches are good for different reasons. But being able to find your way between these shapes, I think, is a very fundamental and fun thing to work on. I remember when I started improvising, I did that quite early, I learned the major scale. So I learned the C major scale, and I had this C major backing track. And I found that over certain chords, I would hit the F note here, and let's say it was over an E chord, it would sound like shit. And if it was the A minor chord, it would also sound like shit. And even the C major chord, because it would clash with the E here. So even though everything was correct in terms of it was a major progression that I was improvising over and I used a major scale, there's still certain notes that I should not land on at certain points, which of course you can learn and then it's all great. But when you start out improvising, using the pentatonic is so much easier because there's no note that's going to clash with any other note in that sense, because basically you've removed all the troublesome half steps in these scales. So if you feel a bit uncertain about improvisation, doing that with the actual minor pentatonic is a great way to go. All right, so as far as practicing this, I would definitely work it like I said about the positions, where you start the lowest available position and then play the entire lick through like this. Do that a few times to go to the next fret, so F sharp. And then go through the entire fretboard like that. Would also start it with an upstroke just to get used to that. And if you find that a particular position shift is giving you trouble, isolate that. So let's say we go back to the first one again, and let's say you can do this. But this is tricky. You can just work between those two, but do it very slowly and just go. Until you feel more comfortable with that. And that one you can also move chromatically, so. Right, so technique practice and learning in general is all about widening the scope and narrowing the scope. So if you find that something is too difficult, you need to narrow the scope. If you find it's too easy, you need to widen the scope by adding more notes. But it can also be adding different, what I call practice filters over it, meaning that you can do it in different rhythms, you can accent certain notes, and there's a whole bunch of things you can do there. But in general, you want to find sort of the sweet spot where you're challenged enough not to be bored, but also it's not too hard so you just get frustrated. And that spot will change as you get better as well. So you kind of always have to try to think about that. So you're not sitting there doing things that are too easy, but also you don't want to go too hardcore either. All right, that's it for this one. If you like what I'm doing here, you would make me a huge favor by liking and commenting and sharing this with your friends. And if you don't like it, maybe share it with someone you don't like. So either way, any type of sharing, I'll be happy if you could do that. And as always, if you have any questions, just post them below. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this one and see you in the next one.